Hi everyone, my name is Angelica Martinez. I am a high school Spanish teacher, and for my project, I would like to introduce pen pals. Let me go down on this. So, with my pen pals, what I like my students to learn, and so that's the students' learning outcomes. I would like students to demonstrate that they understand the speaking, listening, reading, and writing skills in Spanish. I would like my students to articulate differences and similarities between the target language culture. I would like my students to do a little bit of critical thinking to effectively perform the tasks needed in this project. And lastly, students will integrate technology skills to effectively communicate, collaborate, and perform tasks. So I do want to focus on technology in this project. And so throughout the 6 weeks, or it may change a little bit more, maybe 6, 7, or 8 weeks, I want them to use technology. So for the first week, the first topic will be greetings and introductions. And so students will be able to use Duolingo to practice greetings and introductions. They will also use Flipgrid, or I think it's now Flip. That way, students can create a dialogue and then record themselves. That way, they can have an idea of how they sound speaking the language. The next thing I want them to do is to create focus on digital citizenship. Since we'll be using technology, I want them to set rules, and students will be using Google Docs to set goals um, as a class. That way, everyone collaborates. And I also want them to learn a little bit more about the culture before connecting with someone. That way, they understand where students are coming from a different country. And for that, I want them to do a web quest or a virtual tour just to get a little bit more, to know a little bit more about other cultures. The next thing will be our culture interaction, and that will be when students get to communicate with their e-pals. And the last part will be comparing our cultures, so the U.S. and Spain. And what I like for my students to do is blog. That way they can record their experience from the beginning to the end, what it was like learning introductions, what it was like learning about the culture, and then their experience actually getting to talk with talk with someone or email someone from a different country. And lastly, I would like them to compare and contrast the cultures, so the Spain culture from Spain and the U.S. If I go down here, I still have no idea what I'll be using to um to introduce all of the above information. I am wanting to use Google Classroom. It's something that I'm a little more comfortable with, but that is something that I'm still looking into. And then for my modules, I have a few. So for greetings and introductions, the materials that students will be using will be Duolingo, to practice greetings. They'll be using YouTube. That way they can watch videos of how students in Spain greet each other and say goodbye. They'll be using Google Docs to create a short introduction. And then Flipgrid just to record themselves speaking the language. For digital citizenship, students will be using Google Docs to collaborate and set rules. And then a web quest or Google virtual tour just to have an idea of different cultures, norms of students who are attending schools in Spain. And then the next thing will be our culture interactions, and that is when my students will actually get to communicate with their e-pals from Spain. And what I would like them to do is learn a little bit about the difference in our countries. And then the last part will be our blogging, and so I'm looking into Tumblr. That way, students can blog their experiences and compare the cultures. For assessments, I'm still working on them, But for Module 1, I want students to be assessed on their flip video. So how were they able to create their dialogue and record their video? For Module 2, it'll be a paper assessment on their web quest. And for our Module 3, they'll be assessed on their EPEL emails. And then for number 4, or Module 4, that'll be the end project, which is their blogs. And so I would like them to do at least 2 entries. And the last part. So at the moment, I have set 6 weeks. So the first one will be introducing themselves. Their second one will be setting norms and learning a little bit more about the culture. The third one will be actually getting to know, their EPALs. And then after they meet their EPALs, I would like my students to blog that first experience. And then the second time, I want them to, once again, continue the conversation with their EPALs. So respond to their email. And then the last one would be actually their second blog. So how was their response on their email? And were they able to find any cultural similarities or differences? So at the moment, I have it set up for 6 weeks. Potential barriers. I think is going to be the cultural differences between the U.S. and Spain, and also I see a barrier between using EPELs and blogs. So I would definitely need to teach my students how to um, create a email and how to post and create a blog. And to overcome some of these, at the moment I have to teach about the cultural differences and watch a video